All right, hello everyone. We're going to talk about the new offering of ours, which will allow you to get a database in just under 10 seconds. This is Dan, and I'm Marco, and we are both part of the managed services team at Nine. In total, we are a team of 8 engineers based in Switzerland, 2 of them in Canada with Nicholas and Chris, and together we operate our services around the clock. Well, the core idea of managed services is for us to manage the lifecycle of the infrastructure and required services for customers to focus on the lifecycle of their applications. And we do that on virtual as well as dedicated systems. And yeah, we provide a whole variety of services, web servers, language runtimes, you can run containers. And finally, we also manage relational databases, which are the focus of this talk. First, let's give you some background information, how we do operate databases and where we are coming from. Let's start with some numbers. We've been providing managed databases for over 15 years, making it one of the longest running managed services. And there are currently around 730 instances that we manage for customers. Then some numbers we collected from Prometheus metrics. Total size of all databases combined is just over 15.5 terabytes. And the configured buffer size is 6.2 terabytes. Now, that's a very specific number. It relates to memory. It doesn't tell us how much memory is actually being used or what is the capacity. But for us, it's a very important baseline we can establish to ensure reliability and performance without really knowing what the customers are doing. So it should work even without optimizations. So as you can see, we are operating at quite a scale. And now let's try to show you how managed databases fit into the bigger picture at Nine. So we attempted to visualize this. Many customers use many different things at Nine, but we tried to break it down to 3 categories that we see. The most common setup is just a managed server with managed services on it and the application, and things just go from there. We have many customers, it's very proven, that work that way. And sometimes customers for different projects just keep reordering the same setup over and over because their stack is the same, they just require more infrastructure. Then we also have the other extreme, which is the more enterprise customer. Their setups can get quite crazy. There might be virtual systems, hardware systems, a dedicated GPU system. They might use Cloudflare. And also for the databases, this oftentimes means, well, there's some kind of replication going on. Even there could be a source-to-source two-way replication or just a replication to a reader node for analytics. We can configure mutual TLS for the replication if customers want that. So yeah, it's very flexible. And finally, separate to the Nine managed services, there is also the Nine platform. It's also owned by Nine. It's the same hardware, mostly the same locations. It's just a different team that manages it and a different stack. So they're all about cloud native. Everything is fully self-service and billing is fully usage-based. And yeah, even there, you have a lot of freedom. You could just host your databases on there. But maybe customers don't want to do that because they're not quite comfortable. And yeah, even for that, we can provide managed databases as a service to them. So you can use different flavors of doing things at Nine. Now, still, it would be nice, of course, to have something like the managed database in self-service, which is why I introduced a while ago on-demand databases. And yeah, the way it works is just the other way around. There is the Nine platform, and we integrated with it. And yeah, how we did that on a technical level is not the focus of this talk, but I can recommend you check out this tech talk from 2 years ago, where yeah, also Dan goes into a bit more detail, and Demian from the platform team. Now, as the list started growing of things we are offering, we had to think about, well, how should we categorize this? Of course, we can use technical term and say, well, this is a database on an on-demand system or whatever. So yeah, we tried to come up with these, or we came up with these tiers. There is the first tier, the longest standing tier that has always been around with a managed server and managed services on top of it. If you're already a managed server customer, this is likely always going to be the way to go. If you require a database, just run it on there and be part of the first tier. If you're more cloud native and you are running stuff on Kubernetes or Deploio, you will also see it in our demo afterwards, and you don't have any kind of special requirements, the business tier with on-demand databases are the way to go. And finally, we want to show you something new, something really cool. Maybe you can already guess what the tier name will be. There seems to be a pattern there. And yeah, Dan will tell you all about it.
Well, maybe some of you have already noticed the head of a pilot over there. So obviously it's going to be an economy database, right? So we've got all the flight tickets covered you could actually get. Well, why did we actually decide to go for these economy databases? We are also developing Deploio apps, as you just seen before, by the other team, which is about running applications in a cloud-native way. So basically, you just hit a GitHub application onto this Deploio platform, and you just run it there. Mostly in these cases, you don't need a full database management system. You just need one single database. Another requirement was that when we gave our customers a complete database management system, they don't want to fiddle around with create database statements, alter user, and whatever, all these management commands. So that was also a requirement from our customers. Then another point was that with the business databases, they were still using the old management stack. So basically, you get a full virtual server or virtual server in this case, but you also get a complete operating system. The whole management needs to be installed and configured and stuff like that. So it's going to take about up to 10 minutes for this database to be deployed. You probably don't want to have that with a really small application that you're running on Deploio, right? So we needed something for non-productive workloads or low traffic sites, or even for pipelining for testing. So you can just spawn a small database, test your application, and get rid of it again. So that's what we came up with. We also wanted to have a simple pricing with it. So we go to up to 1 gigabyte, as I said before. For testing, you mostly don't need a very big database. So you can have a small one, a medium one, and up to 10 gigabytes. So we decided for a maximum of 10 gigabytes with these economy databases, because that's something you could fit on a shared platform. So how did we do that? Try to explain it a bit with this diagram. So we've got the business databases we had before. So it's a complete database management system. We just deploy them in our own 9 namespace where we can access them. And then we just created the reconciler who is doing all these create database commands, drop database, alter users, and stuff like that. So what you're basically doing as a customer, you create a database object in your own namespace, and then this reconciler just assigns it to one of these business databases we are running ourselves. You can do that either for Postgres or MySQL. Obviously, you also need some backup sometimes. So for maybe a small single page application, we developed a backup to S3 buckets also in our product portfolio. And then you can just go to a Deploio application, and with one of the newer features, you can basically just integrate it with environment variable injection and connect your application to these databases. And here again, down below, you see there are different types of databases available. Well, so basically we just reused the previous business databases, but made it way more flexible. Also, a complexity that we had is for distributing these database objects then onto the business databases. Well, and now one funny maybe difficulty we had. What are we talking about when we talk about databases? Before we were talking about this as a database, but the actual database is just this one here. A database management system actually contains that, and that was the reason why we were going for this naming with the pilot. We had the pilot branding before, so we came up with this first business and economy databases, so we can actually differentiate between these objects, right? Well, where are we at? So we implemented that so far, but we are not quite there yet. So we're currently still in progress with developing automated restore. So our goal is that we can, on our Cockpit, on our website, you can just with a single click restore the backups into your database. This is still something we're currently in development. Another feature that we might want to come up with at some point is having the same type of backup for the business databases, because we reuse the backup method from the first product, it's based on SSH, so you can log into the server and download these backups or restore them from there. But obviously you want to simplify that into a S3 bucket as well, and then restore it on the with a single click on Cockpit as well. That'd be very nice. Some notifications would be very nice. So if your database fills up, you probably want to get a notification. Hey, your database is almost full. You should probably do something, maybe delete some old data, something like that. And then also for the business databases, it might be useful to have a simplified management for users and databases as well, right? So we could probably just take the same technology that we used for our internal business databases and provide them as well to the customer business databases as well. So you can have your dedicated server where the databases are actually put into, but then use the API and the interface for the economy databases. Well, and I guess with that, now it's demo time.
One second. Where are my windows? Part of a window, almost. All right, sorry about that. Well, first and most importantly, let's verify our claim regarding databases in 10 seconds. We're going to use nctl for that. nctl is our command line tool that allows you to manage any kind of self-service resource at 9. If you used kube control before, this will feel very familiar. It just comes with some convenience. Right, see the countdown. Anyways, as Stan pointed out, if you really want to oversimplify it, there was now just simply a Kubernetes reconciler that ran some SQL commands and created some API objects. Well, database is here. We can also inspect it as YAML, or better yet, go into Cockpit. There it is. This has just freshly been created. We can retrieve the access details. Maybe you've used our services before. A new thing, connected applications, it's now possible to inject these access details into applications on Deploio. So there is no copying around of credentials. But now maybe, yeah, let's look at the database that has been running for a while already. So just this one, which is connected to an application on Deploio. And also they have some backups already been running. And yeah, we could just retrieve them from our object storage. Now, instead of a closing slide, we thought we'd just present you with a Kanban board that, again, summarizes what we just told you, what the current state is. We had to look around what kind of tools there are, and we came across this particular tool called Vikunja. Now, this is a very good fit for Deploio since, one, it comes with a Docker file, which means Deploio can just build almost any application and deploy it. That can be Dockerized. And second, the way it operates is the execution environment is stateless, which means things like assets that you upload are persisted to object storage. And if you now have a look at the database, yeah, we can see user sessions are also not persisted on the file system, but in the database. So even better, we could even scale it. And yeah, here we are just connected to this economy database I've shown you just before. It has been running for a while. And I think this is a really good example to just start small, take any tool you want. It supports Postgres or MySQL. Just spawn an economy database and start using it until, I don't know, you get your first government customer and yeah, maybe they don't quite like the permission system as security. They want more isolation. Even then, just download the backup and restore it into a business database. Yeah, that's it.
Are there any questions?
What's the difference between first class and business and economy in case of the availability SLAs? Are they the same?
For first, we obviously have our managed SLAs, so you can have a higher SLA guarantee for them. And for the business and on-demand database, we have just our standard SLAs. So basically, we do have maintenance windows every week, possibly. So it depends on what patches there have to be installed. Recently, there were a bit more patches to be installed than before, but basically, it can go down during the maintenance window, for example.
And one thing I forgot to point out, basically at the core, what we also wanted to tell here, it's always the same stack, no matter what kind of customer you are. It's the same automation, the same operational procedures, one for all. And I guess, yeah, priorities then could also additionally be handled with an SLA.
If we improved, for example, some default settings for the first databases, we also they're the same thing, right? So they're also all automated with our Puppet infrastructure. If you had to look at the previous TechTalk, we were talking about the business databases. So all the databases, no matter which tier, gets these default settings applied.
Therefore, it's interesting for me that how can you provide for the first class much higher or more better SLAs?
Yeah.
The underlying infrastructure is more or less the same, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you make the first class first class?
Well, we also, with the first class, obviously if there's a critical application in there, you mostly have a replication in place as well, right? So especially with bigger applications where you have 2 or 3 database servers, where we then can switch between these database servers. So that's definitely a difference there.
This is how you increase the SLA.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess then it's pizza time.
Thank you.